Hello everybody. So here I am in the heart of spring, Easter week in eastern Crete, near the old Minoan site called Mochlos, and I'm just taking a nice walk this afternoon. It's the first sunny day in what feels like a really long time. It's been a freezing April, freezing cold. I've been wearing gloves in my studio when I work. All bundled up in sweaters, still needing to light the wood stove. Not very much sunshine, so the sun is shining and you can hear the birds are out, and so are the bees. The poor bees have been stuck inside for many days now from the cold and wind. But it's a shining day, and so I'm taking a walk down from the village on this old footpath that somebody reopened last year. It had been totally overgrown, but it's an old footpath that goes right from the village to the sea. And it kind of cuts between fields, and so in the places where this old footpath goes, there's a lot of diversity of flowers, much more than you find in the olive groves. So I brought my gathering skirt to gather some herbs, some fresh fava beans and green almonds to eat. Those are two of the lovely foods that are fresh everywhere right now. I never knew that you could eat green almonds, but at the stage that they're at right now, you can eat the whole thing, even the fuzzy skin. It's crunchy, kind of like a green apple, not quite as sweet. You put a little salt on and it's really nice. I'm just learning a lot about the diversity of the diet here, and the eating of like every part of a vegetable, you know. The almonds at all stages of their growth. So anyway, it's a beautiful season. So I'll just show you a few things on this walk, maybe some wild plants, and anything else exciting that I find along the way. Let's see if I can show you the view from here. The old path that goes down between the olives there, and the sea. And I was told that parts of this path, there we go, parts of this path were paved, maybe the whole thing was at one point, just wide enough for 2 donkeys to pass if they were carrying wood. And in some parts, like right here, you can still see some of the stones. All right, so yeah, I'll carry on and show you some plants. Now this plant right here that has the long stalk that's starting to go to seed, you can see little seed buds, it's everywhere. And this is asphodel, which maybe you remember the name of from Greek myths, the fields of asphodel, which is connected to the afterlife in classical Greek myth, but kind of mysteriously it's mentioned first in Homer, and nobody's quite sure like where this connection between asphodel and the afterlife comes from. It's a really beautiful plant when it's flowering with all these little white lily-like flowers. But I did some research and learned that actually before the potato arrived in Crete, asphodel was kind of like the equivalent. Like it was so, the root was dug up and eaten, and it was so common as food that the connection, at least in part, might have been with the afterlife, might have been this sending the dead off with the food of life, like this staple food. I think it was used for all sorts of things, including medicine. And the stalks may have been used sort of like rushes for making baskets or other things like that. Yeah, it's an amazing deep plant. Now here's an exciting plant that I just started to see actually blooming, maybe about a week and a half ago. It's fun to sort of see the succession stages of different blooms through the spring, as they one by one start going off, each different kind of flower. And this flower, and then the pink gladiolus there, which is the only kind of wild gladiolus in Crete, I started to notice at the same time. But this one, whose English common name is something like tassel hyacinth, in Greek, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but is something like, what is it, ascordulaki? And I was only familiar with it as these onion-like bulbs that all the vegetable sellers are selling right now in their trucks, and they're gathered wild. It's this wild food that maybe about a month and a half ago, I think that's when people started gathering it. I wonder if they gather it before it flowers. But this is the flower, which was super exciting to figure out because I was seeing it everywhere, and I'd been eating these wild onion bulbs, which actually you have to boil 3 times to take away the bitterness, and then they're preserved in vinegar. And it's this lovely medicinal bulb, onion, sort of oniony flavor, sort of bitter, that's really refreshing and healthy wild spring food. So this is the flower of that. Here is the ruin of an old lime kiln. My archaeologist friend Sabine, I sent her a picture of this the other day because I wondered what it was, and she told me it was a lime kiln based on the shape, and she was saying the way that the stones are whiter on the inside from firing. There were a lot of these about 60 years ago, is when they stopped kind of being in operation, and it makes me wonder how lime plaster is made now. Maybe it's just not used so much anymore. But if I understand correctly, they were the kilns used to create the lime that was used in house building, like that kind of lime plaster. Hopefully I'm right when I say that. I remember this being explained to me and trying to figure out exactly what they were for. Anyway, there's, I don't know if you can see it, this wild plant inside. Deep purple with this kind of spire, and this I learned is a kind of arum called dragon arum, of course. This is just a beautiful spot right here. Also, I just found this big patch of wild thyme. It's this bush here, and it's really only just starting to leaf. It's incredibly powerful and strong and medicinal, and the flowering of the thyme is what all the beekeepers are waiting for in July. Thyme honey Crete is famous for. It's delicious, very strong, kind of amber, resinous flavor almost. Very medicinal, and it's really one of the only flowers that's flowering in summer, and it has this big purple bloom, so I'm told. I haven't actually seen this yet. That is really important for the bees because there's not a lot of other food then. So here it is, as well as beautiful view. And here's something quite special just off the side of the road. I think it was actually discovered when they were making the road. It's the ruins of a Minoan tomb. These big stones here facing the sea. The island you can see off to the left is Mochlos, which was a pretty big and significant kind of, not a city, but port town with a lot of special finds, a thriving place. And so it's fascinating to imagine. That's one of the places that's been excavated the most. But I imagine this whole landscape, kind of the valleys leading up into the mountains, people were living here. All through here, who knows how many other ruins there are that just actually haven't ever been found. And these cliffs, they have found that the stone, they were quarrying the stone to make beautiful boxes, whose material is found much further to the east. So there's many stories buried in there. Okay, so right now, almost at my destination at the sea, but just wanted to show you this church. I forget what the name of it is, but you can tell that it's kind of up on a mound, and so when excavations have been done here, apparently this little hill has many thousands of years of layers of occupation and history and a whole lot of ceramics. I'm trying to remember what, it might have been late Minoan, so early Mycenaean, but it's very likely that they just haven't gotten down far enough because it hasn't actually really been excavated so much to see further than that, because if it's been occupied for all that time and this whole coast had Minoan, has Minoan ruins, then presumably this hill, and I wonder how built up it is actually, like almost a shell mound as we have them in the Bay Area, or a midden, or the tell sites of Eastern Europe where like something has been occupied for so long that it's layers and layers of occupation and old houses that are built on top of. It's quite interesting, and since there's a church on it, it makes me think perhaps it was always a sacred site of some sort. And as we get a little closer, you'll see that the earth is really white. There's like this white clay earth right here. And the area is named for that. And I am forgetting the name in Greek at the moment, but I wondered if there was some connection with the creation of the ceramics, although according to a different archaeologist friend, the ceramics don't actually show traces of this particular local clay. So, interesting, but mysterious. Okay, beautiful surprise. Look at this field of pink gladiolus. Oh my goodness. I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing. I wonder why this happened right here. It's lovely. Here they are again. I've had to sit down. This is so special. It's quite a queenly flower. The empress of flowers. It feels like I'm sitting in the Queen's Field. My goodness. Perfect. Now I can't recall the name of this spiky plant at this very moment, but it is used and considered like the best fire starter. Whoops, finger, sorry. Not the best at this, especially these dry pieces. I've learned from first-hand experience that it's excellent to start a fire, and also that traditionally in the old days, like you can see right here, there's a little structure in an olive grove, and that the people would kind of intentionally leave some wild places for gathering wild plants for medicine, but also for fire starting, and this was an important one. I'll find the name and put it in the notes below. And here's the sea. It took me a bit longer than I anticipated because I kept stopping to look at beautiful things so much. I think if you don't stop, it takes about half an hour. It's been a bit longer. Beautiful. I just have to say I feel so at home in this kind of wild, scrubby landscape with the resinous smells of the thyme and the cistus and the lentisk. It must remind me of California. It hits somewhere very deep. I think I love feeling the places that still have their wild plants intact here. I've come up to the church to have a look on the way back, just to see and feel. And I have to admit, every time I see one of those ropes attached to the bell, I have this really childish urge to ring it. Oh my god. Church bell ringing 6 o'clock from another village. Soon in my village they'll be ringing it too, I think. Not a bad place for a house. This is actually right next to the church. Curious who lived here, if it was somebody who maybe looked after the church, or if it's much, much older. Looks quite a bit older. But then the church has been renovated. So, lovely stones. So I'm just heading back up the mountain now. I hope you enjoyed this walk. It was really nice to take you with me. It's a special place. And please feel free to leave any questions you have, comments, thoughts below. Anything you're curious about, you'd like to see next time. Okay, bye for now.